All right. Good morning, my intrepid trader friends. Let's go ahead and jump back here. Obviously, it's been a pretty heavy market. And honestly, will be a very quick review here because, it was just kind of a straight directional market lower, right? So we'll take a look at some of the details here, but it was a pretty easy day, right? First of all, in this sell-off yesterday, right out of the open, and this, I feel like this is every day. It isn't, right? There are a couple days in a row. There could be a week where this doesn't happen, but seems more often than not. The first tag of our roadmap level within the first couple moments of the open here, within the first minute, with a bearish divergence right off of the swing low from earlier in the overnight session there. Again, overnight session, we held our roadmap level to the tick, and then coming into the open, then came down and held our next roadmap level to the tick in the pre-market, and then came up and kissed the back end of it to the tick. So if you grab that, that was basically it. You made, let's see, let me just kind of zoom out here and look again. 55.50, we're now at 54.50. So you would have made 100 points if you held this to our target to the downside, and you would have taken on 0 ticks of risk. So you could tell me whatever that ratio is there, 0 compared to 100 points. You're not going to find that anywhere else. So we held the first roadmap level. As you can see, we started selling out, and then they got through the scaffolding, and for a while here, they were holding the scaffolding until they had to go ahead and come right up and gave a kiss to the back end of the 200 and that very roadmap level that held the market up in the pre-market, right? In fact, it came right to the tick to that swing low, right? If we get this straight. Right there to it. From there, so there's 2 beautiful short opportunities. I'm sorry if you shorted from the scaffolding level as it was getting below. It didn't quite go anywhere. You might have actually gotten 3-4 points out of it without much risk, but then they did kind of kick right up to that next area, and that would have really been the moneymaker. There was divergence. It was a test of those 2 areas. It was a test of the overnight low to the tick, and you had yourself a beautiful party to the downside for the rest of the day, right? That was basically the story here, was to sell the market. It was obviously heavy. It was actually holding the FMA most of the time here on the whole way down, just showing you how aggressive the bears were, right? So if you missed out on these beautiful textbook entries, you did have the FMA opportunities on the way down. It wasn't perfect. They didn't kind of kiss the back end of every roadmap level on the way down, although we do see that happen pretty often, right? Where it does. Quite literally everyone, even when they're close together, will come back and kiss. Didn't quite happen perfectly yesterday, right? Did kiss the first one, did kiss the second one. Looks like it kind of just missed the 55.31 roadmap level there, but did come up and basically kiss into the 55.27 level to continue it on the way down. And then you can see as they got through the scaffolding, they came down and they were holding below it for a little while, holding below that in the 200, and finally continued to come down even more. So you did have an opportunity to try and fade the back end of the 200 here, or the roadmap level, take on basically no risk, right? And continue to capture this sell-off. And this is basically how the whole day went. There might have been one attempt to pop, but basically, as you can see here, they just rode the back end of 200, rode the back end of the top end of the FMA. Then they got down through the next roadmap level at 05 here, and you can see they were holding right around it, and then came up and basically held the back end of it for the continuation lower. Now that wasn't a to the tick hold, but basically held that general area, came down, came right into the 54.90 area, tried to hold for 2 bounces, came through that, came up, and like I said, it wasn't perfect in that they came right back to every roadmap level and gave it a kiss like we do see on some mornings, but was basically a little shy from that next roadmap level. And then at the end of the day here, you can see just kind of more of the same, right? Continued to sell off, tried holding the back end of the 200 here and the roadmap level, but could not hold below the 200, and then got the final pop at the end of the day. And you even had that final little scalp right off the FMA in the last couple minutes there. So pretty easy day if you ask me. It was sell the market. And that brings us here now into the overnight session, where they have finally brought us down to our major target to the downside. So on the higher time frames, I had this circled or outlined here, right here, from about 54.48 to 53 in here, but we also had the actual major 38 retrace at 56.25 right there. That was the major target to the downside. You can see we had the 54.90 area was an expectation, the low of the day before was an expectation, and then we had this 54.50 up to the 56 retrace level. That was our main target to the downside, and sure enough, we're getting a peak below and bounce right off of that area at the moment there. So we finally made it here. You can see on the short time frames, finally making it down to that 54.56 area. There's the major roadmap level at 54.50, and I believe it was kind of highlighted like that, right? That's kind of where we were expecting a potential for a large bounce, and sure enough, this is where we're finding support in the overnight session, right? So hey, there's a lot, decent amount of volume last night. So looking at where the market opened here, there was a pullback to the close, tried to come back up through the roadmap level at 91, fell just in front of it. And now you can see for quite a while in the overnight, just a lot of trouble getting through VWAP here for a while. And they came up and just shyly missed the close of the day before there in the overnight session, as they've been falling lower. And then obviously that beautiful tag of the 200 as well. So we've been having a pretty continuation to come back and retest the low and retest into this major retrace area. And on the way down, you can see you had to the tick holds off our roadmap levels. First of all, our scaffolding there at 54.73. Then they came down lower, and remember, the Hopal doesn't print until 5 a.m. my time. So it wasn't there, and it came right to the next roadmap level, nearly to the tick, and came out from there. So you can see there's still beautiful opportunities off these areas. And then finally, you can see they made it all the way down. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, guys, they came right to the next scaffolding area, right to the support area we were expecting as an area that made sense for a larger bounce. And that's where we're finding our support right now. Now, that doesn't mean that the market is just going to hold from here and now actually break out to the upside. This is just an area that made sense for a larger bounce. Whether or not the bulls have the strength to contend with all of this bearish momentum, you know, that's yet to be seen. But beautiful hold there, basically from the roadmap level, and obviously been a bit of a chop fest here in the last hours, 2-3 hours. Despite that, you can still see some discrete rotations right off these roadmap levels, although not as much follow through because of the choppiness, but still basically holding each of these levels nearly to the tick. If you look at all this chop, you really scrutinize it. I mean, it's bam, right off of it, bam, right off of it, hold below it, get back above it, bam, hold off of it, right? Just kind of all throughout this chop, it's still rotating basically right around the roadmap levels. So pretty incredible stuff. Let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and see what they have to say for this morning.